let's just roll with it. Roll with punches. You know, it is what it is. So what are we doing today? We're doing proper prep, and we're going to clean this little dirty girl because this is a dirty piece of furniture. We're going to jump right in and talk about all things proper prep. We're going to talk about wood you bend. We're going to stick some wood you bend onto this little cutie, and we're going to talk about why you would need Boss and when you would need Boss, okay? Because we have a product to use today that I use all the time called Bonding Boss. It is your gripping primer for anything slick or shiny. It's also going to help you with possible bleed through, and we're going to learn some stuff today. So check it out. Check out what I got at the Goodwill. $6.99. $6.99 at my Goodwill today. This little wood sewing box, right? I mean, it's a sewing box. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments below, but I'm like 99% sure that that's what the original use for this would have been. So we have a cutie little sewing box. And yes, I have gloves on because let me hold this up and show you how dirty this, this little creature is. So how are we going to clean it? What do you do? What's the first thing you do when you buy a piece at the Goodwill? Well, you're going to turn it around and inspect it. This piece is in structurally really great shape. It's in really great shape. It's just really, it's dirty. I'm not going to lie. So we're going to aim the camera down a little bit, if I can, and I'm going to show you how to clean your projects. Wear gloves if you like. You don't have to, but ew, did you see how dirty it is? So we're going to clean it. So what do I have here? This is basically White Lightning. This one says Terra Clean. There's also one that's manufactured for the Silk line. All this is White Lightning. It's a TSP based cleaner dispersed into water. You can actually get it in this great handy dandy little spray misting bottle, or you can get it in the little tiny container that has the powder, and you disperse it yourself into water. We're just going to give this thing a bath. Right over here, we're going to give it a bath, and I'm going to show you how disgusting this is. This is also why you should always clean your furniture, because if you're not cleaning your furniture, ew, please just clean your furniture. We're going to give it a good bath, okay? Because it is not a clean piece of furniture. This White Lightning is going to remove any shine. I wouldn't be doing White Lightning on a project that I was planning on just like cleaning and leaving, because it does take off a little bit of shine. So you need to be prepared for that. So here we go. Look, grossy Josie over here. Let's get right in here and just spray the heck out of it. We're going to spray the bottom. We're going to spray the sides. We're going to spray the whole entire thing, because other people's gross is not my favorite. So we're going to take it off. Plus, we're going to talk about tannins today. So when you're cleaning a project, like if you find that you bring home a project from the Goodwill or from the yard sale, and your rags when you're cleaning look really red or really yellow, like maybe there's nicotine or some really gross stuff on there, you're going to need to be prepared to know that you're going to probably want to use a product called Bonding Boss. Why would you use Bonding Boss? Well, because Bonding Boss is your stain blocking. Listen, is that a terrible noise? It's like the nails on the chalkboard noise. It's your stain blocking primer. You're going to put paint on here, and you're going to paint this thing, and you're going to think, oh, I'm fine. I can paint on here, no problem. You can't, because your paint is going to have bleed through of tannins come through. All that old tannins and old junk in these wooden pieces. See that? See that? It's going to bleed right through your paint. So number one, cleaning is always needed. If you're not going to clean your furniture, you're not going to get a great result. After you've cleaned it, I want you to take your spray misting bottle with water and just gently kind of rinse it off, right? So we're just kind of washing off the White Lightning. I'm working in sections right now. I'm going to work on the bottom part of this piece. I see one leg over here that's a little wobbly. After I get that wood you bend on that we're going to work on, I can clamp and glue that leg, but structurally it's pretty darn good condition. This little sewing box is a weird shape. I like weird furniture. I don't know. It's just something that intrigues me. And it's got storage, so when stuff has storage, I feel like that's always an added bonus. All right, I'm just making sure I'm getting up in and under these little curves. Like, ew, come on. If you didn't clean your furniture before you paint it, yeah, that's not going to be not a good plan. So we're going to give it a little bath. a little rinse with water at the same time, just taking off that excess. So I'm going to show you the edge of this piece after I get it done and clean, where there is some missing wood, and how the Wood You Bend is going to hide those damages. Wood You Bend is a molding that you can purchase through Dixie Belle. They carry an exclusive range that is not available everywhere, but it is available on the Dixie Belle paint page from Wood You Bend. Wood You Bend is a company based in England. Solly Joe over there has the great Wood You Bend products that I freaking love. I put them on everything. And you can get an exclusive range of Wood You Bends from Dixie Belle on their page. I put a link in the description, so if you're looking to find any of the products I'm going to use today, minus the rubber gloves, you can. And you can find Wood You Bend on there as well. So we're going to finish cleaning this little thing, and then we're going to Wood You Bend it, and it gets a textured like finish. Okay, that's pretty darn good. We're gonna call that clean. Let me pick this up and show you my edging of this little table where it needs to be repaired and why we're going to add Wood You Bend. So on this sewing table you have a flap drawer that opens up at the top, right? Minor damage here. I can live with this. I can live with this. You can see that kind of alligator finish when stuff is being exposed to like a high heat on top of that shellac. That's usually what happens to a finish, but the Bonding Boss is just going to like lock in all of those tannins and allow me a nice paintable surface. But up here we have a broken edge. Can you see that right there? So it's not terrible. Like, it's just a corner. I could probably sand that down to flat and you wouldn't notice it at all. But I have a trick in my toolbox and we're going to do that today. All right. So this is Wood You Bend trim roll. This is Wood You Bend trim roll number 718. Trim roll 718 comes in a pack of 2. Okay. I'm not going to need that much for this, and we're going to show you how to attach that. So when you purchase Wood You Bend, it arrives rigid and hard like this, right? This is a rigid and hard piece of trim. It's not bendy. If I were to pull this, it's going to break because this is, you can hear it, it's hard, right? How to make this unravel and get nice and flat to measure for this space and hide this broken corner, we're going to hit it with the heat gun, and I'm going to show you. Let's see if I can do it without putting it on the floor, without burning my digits. Come on, why is you not turning on? Bad plug. There we go, there we go. This is the heat gun. I'm going to aim my heat gun at my Wood You Bend trim roll, and I'm going to show you how it becomes now bendy. See that? See how it unrolls? It starts to unroll. This becomes bendable when you heat it up. It doesn't happen when it's not warm. So I'm just going to hold this edge. I'm going to try and hold that edge. I'm not. I'm actually going to hold it up here so I don't set myself on fire. And we're going to cook it up and unroll my trim roll by heating it up. If I was doing this on the floor, my life would be a lot easier, but I'm doing it up here in the air so that you guys can see. So as you heat it, it unrolls, and you can cut it, you can sand it, you can bend it, you can do anything to this while it's still warm, and it's going to be easier. So this trim roll has some really cool detail on it. Remember this broken corner right here? This little trim roll is going to sit right on top of this edge and cover that. So what I'm going to do right now is just kind of measure it out to see where I'm going to be at. I'm going to be right around here. I'm just going to take a pair of scissors because it's still warm, and I'm going to cut it. Okay, so this trim roll is not flat. It's not even by any means, but it's pretty much the approximate length I'm going to need for this project. So now what I'm going to do is lay it on the floor. Okay, I'm going to lay it on the floor and heat it up from the back side. And by doing that, I'm now able to really kind of lay it out and get it flat to the piece. All right, so I can then plan where this little trim roll is going to go over top of this edge, and it's going to hide that broken corner. Once I attach it to this piece, if I would like, and I probably will, I can come up here with some mud or some wood filler and just gently go from the bottom and kind of fill in that space after I get it on there. I could do that. I probably actually have both of those things on the floor. I just used them the other day. Where did it go? Oh no, I put it away. Surprise, I never put things away, and I did put it away. So we're not going to fill the corner in today. We're just going to get this would you bend on here, and I can fill it in after. So now I've got this piece of would you bend. See how it's flat and straight again? It's getting hard because it's no longer heated up, like it's pretty rigid. This edge is cut straight. I'm going to line this up and see where I have to cut this edge. So I'm going to heat it with my heat gun because it's easier to cut when it's warm. I'm going to make sure that that's sitting right on my corner. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut this. You can also sand these edges. So once I get this down here, I'm just going to gently sand the edges so they're not as like rough. They'll be a little bit less rough. They'll be more rounded. You can do that before or after. It really makes no difference. Whatever you can do to would you bend, or wood, you can do to a would you bend. So just by sanding, I'm just gently going to round those edges a little bit so they're not as harsh. You can do that with your sanding paper, easy peasy. Okay, so now we have this piece of would you bend. How are you going to stick it on here? How am I going to get it on here and make sure that's adhered well? Well, that's very simple. You're going to be using wood glue for that project, okay? So what I'm going to do is actually lay this on the floor and heat it up one more time. But before I do that, I think I'm going to get the glue on this section. The magical question is, I do have an old paintbrush down here. Somebody I know doesn't close lids very well, which means that I can never actually use my glue lids like they're intended because they just get clogged up and junked up. And I end up cutting them down and I do all the things, but I never seem to learn that lesson that you're supposed to like close the lids on your glue. Don't ask me why. I do the same thing with condiments in the refrigerator. I don't ever close lids very well. My husband will tell you this. I don't know why. I seem to be immune to doing it. So I need to stick a paintbrush in here and put glue on. So I have a brush sitting here. It's just an old brush. Let's take some of this glue and lay it out on the edge of my little sewing cabinet, because this is how we're going to stick that would you bend on, is with the glue. Okay, so once I lay out my glue, and you don't need a ton of it, it sticks on really easy. It works really, really well. So I'm going to actually take my would you bend and I'm going to heat it up one more time on the floor, make sure that I get it nice and bendy, because when I get it up here on the glue, I'm going to try and make it as straight as possible. Okay, so now my would you bend is warm. See how it's bendy? I want these little moon shapes to kind of aim down. I'm going to line up this edge first, and I'm going to gently press it. We're going to heat it up one more time once I get it onto my project, okay? But for now, I just want to get it on this spot pretty much as flat as possible. So why would I heat it up one more time once it's on my project? Do you know why? Because I want to make sure that it's really flat to the piece and that I've got it exactly where it needs to go. So now my would you bend trim is on the edge, covering that broken corner. You can't see that broken corner. I mean, if you lift it up, you can see it, but I'm going to fill that part in with mud or with wood filler, either way. So now that my would you bend's on here, let's hit it one more time with the heat gun just to make sure that it's all in there nice and flat. And we're going to get it exactly where it needs to go. And then we're going to do the other side. Perfection. So I don't need to tape this. I don't need to clamp this. This is going to stay here easy peasy, and you can paint right over top of it. Would you bend trim rolls are an amazing way to repair tiny little edges of things, or like zhuzh up your project and make it look super fancy where it really wasn't fancy before. Now, I don't want that just on one side, so we're going to actually do that to the other side as well. So I'm going to take the remaining part of my rigid trim roll and I'm going to hit it with the heat gun again. And I'm going to measure it out. Remembering that I don't need it to be perfect right now, I just need an approximate. And I'm gonna cut this. And we have our trim. So now what I'm gonna do is actually heat it up on the ground flat. When I lay it flat, I'm gonna be able to smooth this out and make it nice and flat so that I can evenly line it up and cut those edges. Okay. That one's fine. That one's fine. And we're gonna go over here and trim this side as well. Okay, so now that it's been trimmed, I'm gonna gently sand the edge. And when you paint this, it's gonna look the same as your wood surface is gonna look. You're not gonna know that you added this on there and covered your damages. Okay, so let's take my glue. This side does not really have any damages. There's small, if I hold you up, you can see that there's some small slight edges that don't look as pretty. There's a chip here, there's a chip, kind of a rough area here, and a missing bit here. So we're gonna cover that up on the other side. And look, I legit, what is my problem with glue? Is it just me? Like, I swear, every time I use glue, I make the biggest mess possible. Did I need to drop the entire paintbrush inside the glue and make a giant mess? No. Did it happen? Yeah, pretty messy. We'll put this on the ground now, not back in the glue. Sorry, Dad, if you're watching. My dad's always like, put the lid on your glue. I don't know if something's wrong with me. So let's heat this up one more time. Make sure you're matching it. I did the little loops so they're at the bottom, right? Yep. And now I'm going to line up my wood you bend. If you have excess glue, it's okay. Just gently wipe it off. It's not a biggie deal. If you have too much, if you stick it on too hard, you can easily wipe that off. You can wet a paintbrush if you have to. Perfect. So now that edge has been hidden, that crummy edge that really just was not cute is now fancy pantsed up. Let's heat it up one more time to make sure it's stuck on there well. And it dries so fast. I mean, I can paint over top of this side right now, and I will, because we're gonna talk about Bonding Boss and why I would use Bonding Boss on this piece. So now we have our cute little wood you bend trim on either side, hiding that broken corner that I'm gonna come up underneath and add a little bit of some mud to, because I don't wanna see that under edge part. But when you look it down from the top, you can't even tell that that part was missing. Look at that, super fast, super fast. If you're tuning in late and you wanna know what trim roll that is, that's wood you bend trim roll number 718. And I don't know how much is on here, you guys, but a lot. And I'll just wrap this back up and put it back in my storage, and this can be used for another project. There's tons of this left. And I keep every little scrap and piece of wood you bend, because you're gonna find that you use it for a lot of different projects, not just like big long pieces. Sometimes I just need like a little bit to fill in a missing hole on something, and it works perfectly. So let's talk about what the plan is for this piece. So we've cleaned this with White Lightning, right? We cleaned it really well. We gave it a rinse. You saw how dirty and disgusting those little towels were. So now we're left with this little piece that has this alligator-like finish. Could you sand it off? Sure. I'm not going to worry about the inside right now. Actually, probably will add some decoupage paper on there, because that would be super cute. We're going to talk about the outside and why I would use Bonding Boss on something like this. We talked about the alligator finish, right? This finish that gets kind of crocodile-y like skin, wrinkly skin from being heated up, from being an old piece of wood, temperature changes, years over years of like people adding weird varnish and stuff. It just does. So I don't want to see that, and I think there could be possible bleed through. So that means I'm going to use this product. Now, I use this a lot. I use this in lieu of sanding all of the time. I'm sitting in my old dining room, aka my studio space right now, where I don't want to sand everything. I really don't. So because I don't want to sand everything, I gotta slam this lid. Because somebody I know didn't close the lid on this either. Well, but it can open. You just have to beat things up a little bit. So we're gonna use Bonding Boss on all the things, number one, that I don't want to sand. We're gonna use Bonding Boss on everything that could have possible bleed through has uneven finishes. Maybe I added a new piece of wood or trim or something on here and I want it to all kind of matchy when I paint over top of it, right? Bonding Boss in gray seems to be the one I use the most. Gray is specifically for reds and pinks and yellows and those hard pigments that just take a little bit more paint to cover. You're going to find that gray does that easier. There's also clear, which is great if you're going to be sanding back and showing distressed edges. And then there's also white. I just really like the gray. I like the consistency, I like the coverage, and I think it works well for all colors. I do not use my fancy brushes when I use Bonding Boss. I use a roller or a throwaway chip brush because Bonding Boss shouldn't go down your drain. I just don't think that it's something that I want clogging up my pipes. So I will use a disposable brush for this. So let's talk about how you apply it. So you can roll it on, you can paint it on. I'm gonna go right over top of this Would You Ben molding that we just attached to the piece. I don't technically have to because the paint's gonna adhere just fine to that Would You Ben. But to make everything look the same, I'm going to hit it with my Bonding Boss. You're gonna want to apply this with 2 even coats, waiting approximately 2 to 4 hours in between coats of Bonding Boss. Why are you waiting 2 to 4 hours in between coats of Bonding Boss? Well, you want it to kind of like cure up, right? You don't want to put one coat on and then walk away and not do that second coat because then you might not get the amount of coverage that you need to protect your piece from the bleed through that could happen. I don't want to paint these hinges because they are little and I feel like if I come close enough to the edge, I'm not going to actually hit them and clog them up. I don't take doors and cupboards off because I can never get them back on the same way that they lived on piece. So my solution to that is paint around them. Is it the proper way to do things? Somebody's going to tell you that it's not, but I'm going to tell you I don't care. It's easier for me to paint around them than it is for me to take stuff off. Okay? So 2 even coats of Bonding Boss. Painted on, rolled on, sprayed on, I don't care. Waiting 2 to 4 hours before you're applying your second coat. And then the most important thing is I am not going to be able to paint this today. This is going to have to sit and wait for 24 hours. Why do you wait for 24 hours before you paint over top of your Bonding Boss? Because you need it to be completely dry and cured before it's going to do the job that it's meant to do. If you paint over top of this before the 24 hours is up, what's going to happen is that you might not get the full coverage and essential protection that you're applying this for, right? This is for bleed through. And to be honest, I can actually see tannins already coming through on this Bonding Boss, which is why you use 2 even coats. It's just the rules. I don't make them. I usually don't follow them. But for Bonding Boss, I do follow them. Let's come in here and paint the edge of this as well. If you wanted to, with your trim on your Would You Ben, you could grab your Dixie Belle mud and fill in any seams, or you could use like a caulking on the edges to fill in any seams if you wanted to. I don't think you're gonna have to. This is like a raised kind of slanted lid. Nobody's gonna look at the edge like this close and see. I mean, if they do, they can, but I mean, I wouldn't. So if you wanted to, you come in here with something and make sure those edges are caulked up. I'm going to just continue to paint this project. We'll just do this side for now because I still have to fix the other edge of that lip and then wait 24 hours before I paint. If this was your tiny little sewing box, which technically I don't think it's a sewing box anymore because does anybody, I shouldn't say that. Does anybody keep yarn and sewing materials in a sewing box? I literally, like I have a big, huge basket of yarn. So yes, maybe somebody would use this. I mean, heck, it's not big enough to hold the amount of yarn that I have, but it could hold cute sewing supplies. It could live beside the couch and hold like remote controls and fun things. I think it should be light and bright. What do you guys think of like a nice creamy neutral with florals for something like this? I could add maybe one of the new decoupage papers. I could add a floral transfer. You know me, I like to put all of the things on my projects. I like to put all of the stuff. Look how cute this shape is of this tiny box. It was only, how much was this at the Goodwill? $6.99. $6.99. I mean, how could I not buy it? $6.99. I think it's a cutie. So 2 even coats of Bonding Boss will be needed before you paint your project. And then All that's left is choosing your color and paint right over top of it. But I thought that you guys could maybe join me for that little bit of prep today, just to talk about would you bend, an easy fix for that corner so nobody's gonna see, you know, that broken edge, and why I choose to use Boss on everything, because it's just gonna protect my work from any possible stains or bleed through, especially on a piece that was as dirty and as crusty as this one. I mean, yes, I cleaned it, but that doesn't mean that the tannins are not going to stop. I can legit see them coming through on this bonding Boss, which is why you need 2 even coats. If you want to sand in between coats, you can, to minimize your brush strokes, that's okay. But there is no rules in painting. Maybe choose to do a textured finish and apply my paint in a way that might actually give it a little bit more texture to hide some of the alligator finish that's kind of happening on one side more than the other. I think it must have sat in a direct sunlight, to be honest, on this side, not the other side, because only one side has it more than the other. So I might do a little bit of a textured finish in this one. Maybe we'll get out some Terra clay paint and do some nice creamy Terra and apply it in a manner that would create texture versus trying to hide it. I mean, I'm a big fan of like kind of working with what you've got versus, you know, fighting that whole thing. I don't want to fight with it. So if that means there's already a little bit of texture or it's already heavily damaged, I'm just going to do a look that's a little bit more of a textured finish. And since this little cutie was only $7 at my thrift store, that means I can do whatever I want. So I hope that this helps you on your painting journey. I know you don't get to see the full project here on this live today, but guess what? You can always head over to my YouTube, where I do eventually post a full tutorial of all the projects that we work together on our live videos, so that you can see all of the final results. I think I'm about 2 weeks behind from the lives. I tend to work ahead so that I have about a month's worth of posting in my back pocket in case I don't feel like posting or working. I don't have to. I can kind of hide that out and pop one of those up on my YouTube. But don't worry, it'll eventually get up there. You just have to look for it. If you're ever looking for something and you can't find it, you can go ahead and send me a message and I can point you in the right direction. And you can then find it on YouTube. And I'm at the same name, Melissa at the Top Drawer RVA, on YouTube, across all social media channels. That's it. That's it for me. I'm going to sit on the floor and finish this little guy up, but I have to get out my mud and fix that corner first on the opposite side. I hope that you learned something today, hanging out with me, playing with paint. I hope that you enjoyed yourself. Next time you go to Goodwill, keep your eyes peeled. You never know what you might find. You might find a cutie little cabinet like this for you to store all your knitting and crocheting essentials in, because that's usually what I would be doing, because I'm an old lady like that. Anyways, take care, everybody. I'll see you again next week. I'm going to try to be live here on my own page every Wednesday around this time. And as always, if you need anything, shoot me a message. If you're interested in my Coaching for Creatives group, where I teach anybody with a small business how to grow online, that group is enrollment closed right now. If you wanted to get in, you need to send me a message and I can set you up with that. We're having a lot of fun in there. Today's talk, I'm live in there every Wednesday. Today's talk was all about Pinterest and why Pinterest is an amazing marketing tool for your small business to drive traffic. I use Pinterest every single day for my business and it rewards me handsomely. I really like to use Pinterest to push out content, to use affiliate marketing, or to just drive traffic to whatever area I want it to go to. So if you're a small business, a painter, a crafter, somebody who's just trying to build a brand online, I can help you with that. You can always learn more about that as well on my website at www.thetopdrawerrva.com. It will pop right up there on your home screen and you can learn all about all the different ways that I can help you and coach you and mentor you in your creative journey. Let's jump in. So does anybody know what color we're gonna do? Because if you know me, I'm usually bright, bold, and wild and crazy, right? Crazy color. But I went through my transfer stash. I have a lot of transfers. I have too many things. Sometimes I use so much stuff that I accumulate bits and pieces of a lot of things. So I went through my transfer stash. Now, here's the thing with transfers. Sometimes you get these transfers, they're big, they're bold, they're beautiful, and you only use one sheet. And then you have 3 sheets left, and I clipped them all up on my little clipping thing that hangs from my curtain in the corner. So I went through the stash and I found some stuff. Do you remember this transfer called, I believe it was called Savi's Boquet? So this is 2 sheets of this transfer, Savi's Boquet. I put a link in the description if you want to go shop it. This is one of Dixie Belle's super popular transfers. And I mean, I get it. I know why. It's because it is super, super pretty. The colors are gorgeous. So this is 2 sheets that could go together to make a very large image. I've used it on multiple pieces of work, dressers, buffets, end tables, and these 2 sheets are left over from a project. So my thought process is to paint the base in a nice neutral color, then take this and actually get it up in here onto this panel and cut it to size. So that means I could put it lower so that these cute little pieces at the top come up, but that means I lose a little bit on this side and a little bit on this side, which is fine. It's perfect because it just needs to fit this little panel right here. So whenever I use a transfer, I always look at the transfer and I think, okay, what colors do I see in this transfer? What's going to complement it very well? I get a lot of questions about people asking, how do you pick colors that go so well with the transfer? Just look at what's on the transfer. So if you can look at the transfer closely and see, I see a lot of really pretty neutrals, right? Sawmill gravy. I see some pretty colors you could use from the cottage collection. So I went into my stash and I picked up this one. This is called Ecru. It is like a tan, not too brown of a tan, but like a mix between tan and cream, if that makes sense. So that gives me a really nice match for what's going on in this transfer as a base to sit underneath, because this transfer itself, wherever you see white, is a spot where you're going to see the color of the paint that you choose pop in through here. Hi Allie, hey guys, how are you? Thank you for hanging out and watching with me today. So I thought we could paint a nice creamy ecru color, put the transfer on this panel, turn it around and do it on the other side. And then just because we need to be like a little bit fancy, right? A little fancy pants, I grabbed Apricot. Now, this paint color is only available in the 4-ounce size as far as I know right now. It used to be in this 16-ounce size, and I think they took it away because it wasn't like a big seller. But then again, they brought a bunch of colors back that were kind of in the smaller range. So don't quote me on that. It might be available in this size. This is a really soft, warm pink with a little bit of coral in it, I would say. My thought process is to put that on the interior panel, where you're only going to see it when you open this lid up, and then you're going to get a beautiful little pop of color. So I can't do that all today, but we can definitely get started with the base. And I don't think we will get it dry enough to do all the work today. I really don't, because transfers need to go onto something that is quite dry versus, you know, a little bit wet. So we won't have all the time today, but I can always film it all and put it on YouTube for you. Everything that we do here together is always up on YouTube, so that if you're looking for something, you can easily look for the final product. So this little, what is this? Sewing cabinet, right? It is a sewing cabinet. I'm not nuts, right? I'm pretty sure that's what this is. Like back in the day, the ladies would have kept their knitting and crap in here, right? Now you can put whatever kind of crap you want in there. I mean, I technically still have a basket full of knitting stuff, so it could still be a knitting container. But if you know what this is, technically, drop it in the comments below. You know, help me out. Yikes! So I'm going to paint the underside first. This did have a couple of loose joints. I have glued the joints with wood glue to get them ready for, you know, the strength that they have, but I still feel a little wobble, so I might come in after we're done and do that. But I like to flip these little tables upside down, and when I flip them upside down, what happens is it makes it just so much easier to get in here and paint. Let's see if I can tip the thing. It's a standing sewing box. Thank you. See, I knew it had something to do with some sort of sewing something, who knows. Standing sewing box. Thank you very much. You get the gold star today. You win the prize. So let's get in here with our paint and just kind of cover the bottom parts of this so that when we flip it over, we have a nice surface to work on. You can tell that I didn't do the bottom part of the legs with Bonding Boss because it's the bottom part of the legs. Nobody is going to see this unless they turn it upside down like I'm doing right now and looking at the underside, the undercarriage of my small table. So let's just get this beautiful ecru down, which is a nice creamy, warm neutral tone and get it so that when I do flip it over, I'm not going to miss any of the parts, because sometimes when you're working on these like tables or stuff with all the legs, it's really hard to see and get in around the edges. So just starting with the base and then flipping it back over is just going to give me a little bit more ability to not miss any corners. So how's everybody doing today? You enjoying your summer? What's new? What's up? I am a lonely child this week. My daughter, who is usually my, oh, I should do that part too. My daughter, who's usually my big project, right? She's my project in life, pretty much. She is away with a bunch of girls, living her life this week, having so much fun at a lake, which meant that I thought, well, heck, I'll get a ton of work done this week, right? You know, because I'm hanging out by myself. There's going to be tons of things that I can achieve and do this week, right? I could clean, I could cook, I could write a book. You know what I've done? Nothing. I haven't done anything. I haven't really done anything. I mean, that's a little bit of a lie. I've done, you know, the stuff that I have to do. The laundry's done. I have to take care of her guinea pig while she's out of town. That's being done. Winnie and I had a moment today. I cut her nails and we hung out on the floor and ate lettuce. That's exciting. But yeah, I thought I would have a week full of tons of things, and I've done nothing. I've just recharged my batteries and watched some shows with the husband, and that is it. So yeah, every time you think you're gonna do a ton of stuff, it usually doesn't happen, but that's okay. That is okay. Sometimes you just need a moment to recharge your batteries, right? But yeah, anytime you make plans when you think you're going to get a bunch of stuff done, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't make the plans because it's probably not going to get done. Although we're only halfway through the week. I could like decide that I'm super productive now and get all the things done. But don't quote me on that, because probably no. Probably no. But it is super quiet when there's no kiddos in the house. Let me tell you that. That's crazy. I'm not used to the quiet. It's just me and the dogs. Me and the dogs, and some naps sometimes. Some naps, we'll see. Enjoy some me time. Yeah, I did go to the Goodwill and wander around aimlessly yesterday. I put a video up about that today. I had some fun looking for things to paint, and I didn't have any good luck like my previous week. I did put a video up on that. People are loving the thrifting videos. So if you want to see it, it is actually up here on my Facebook page. I just posted it before I came alive today. I did wander Goodwill for at least an hour and accomplished nothing but pure joy in my heart for looking at donated items, because that's how you roll when you're midlife, right? Like the things that make you happy are probably most likely the most boring and safe things ever, which is okay. It's okay. The only thing that would have made it better is if I would have had like a McDonald's unsweet tea, then my day would have been made. But I did not. Okay, let me just paint the inside part of these legs where I know it's going to be hard to reach. And then we will flip her over. We will flip it over. So what am I using today? Who knows what chalk mineral paint is? I always have some new people on this video that have questions about the paint that I'm using. I also know that a lot of you ladies that come back to join me have been around the block a little bit. You know what I'm doing. You know the products I'm using. But for those of you that don't know what I am up to, all the paint that I'm using today is called chalk mineral paint. This is all from Dixie Belle paint, which I included in the description and link. Dixie Belle paint is a US-based, woman-owned company. We love that. We love that. Support our ladies and our US economy. Made in the United States of America, Dixie Belle has 3 different kinds of paint. We have chalk mineral paint, which I'm using today, water-based, 0 VOCs, safe to use indoors around your pets. No problem, easy peasy. And they also have silk alum mineral paint. The silk alum mineral paint is really fun because you can use a paint that has a built-in primer with a built-in top coat. It is fantastic for one coat coverage, one color coverage, and it does the job with 0 bleed through. So at a piece like this where maybe like if I was worried that the boss wasn't going to be enough, you could always come in and use silk and know that your paint is definitely not going to have any bleed through, because then you're going to have two layers of protection, right? But we also have Terra. If you guys know my Terra clay paint, I'm a big lover of Terra. Terra is a textured clay paint, an artisan paint. And I actually did use Terra on the armoire that I just finished and that I haven't shown y'all yet. You guys are going to love that. It's super layered, very fun, very, very, very pretty. I am a big fan of texture. Big fan. So 3 lines of paint, 1 paint company. Everything I'm going to use, even the transfer, is from DixieBellePaint.com. If you decide that you'd love to shop some Dixie Belle paint using that link that I put in the description, that is my affiliate link. That means I do earn a small kickback, which allows me to just keep crafting and going to Goodwill, like you know I need to do to stay sane and normal. It's my therapy, Goodwill shopping, crafting, painting, besides the fact that I absolutely love it and I love teaching. So it is a perfect combination. Painting, teaching, thrifting, dream job over here. So that's what that link is. It just means that I get a percentage in an affiliate sale, which is always helpful. I do have 3 children. Just that 2 are grown. They don't live here anymore. Doesn't mean that I don't send them money, because I do. Do you ever stop doing that to your adult kids? I don't think so. I don't think so. Anyway, so this color is chalk mineral paint. It's Ecru, which is a nice neutral color. Loving this shade. And now that I'm going to get some of this done here, let me do this piece and then hold up the transfer so you can see how the color is going to match. I will need 2 coats. The first coat kind of goes on helter-skelter, a little haphazardly. Having that bonding boss on here helps, because the bonding boss is like a nice base. You're going to use less amounts of paint when you have a nice primer base. But just so you know, it does make your life easier to prime and not have to use as many coats of a nice neutral color like this, because this is really light and this little sewing box was quite dark, which meant that that combination means you're going to use a lot of paint. So we'll get this little section done, and I'm going to show you what this transfer is going to look like color-wise. As always, if you have questions and I miss your comment, because I do not really look at the screen a lot when I'm painting, I'm distracted by my own self, let alone looking at the screen and reading comments half the time. So I will read them after. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in below. Okay, so now that's 1 coat. That's some pretty good coverage right there. 1 coat of chalk mineral paint, right? Let me hold up the transfer so that you can see. See that beautiful combination of the cream with the transfer? Knowing that everywhere that you see the white, you're going to see the cream underneath. I think what will happen is I'll actually lay it down a little bit lower. I love these little kind of peaks and valleys in this transfer. So by putting it kind of right there in the center, it's going to look really good. What do you think? Super cute, right? So cute. Super cute. So that is what we're doing. This isn't the most exciting thing, but I thought, hey, we started this last week. Let's work on it together. Work on it together. So if you had this little sewing box and you don't sew, because I don't think sewing is a hobby that a lot of people have anymore. It's an amazing hobby. I think that if you can do it, more power to you, because that's a serious talent right there. But if you weren't a sewer, would you buy this box? What would you do with it? Would you just use it to store like remote controls, doodads, things in the living room? I don't know. What would you do with it? I mean, it's not overly big, right? It's still fairly small. I guess you could use it to like put things in that you don't use every day, that you just kind of want to keep close by. But it does make a super cute sewing box. It really does. Yarn, I could put yarn in it. I do crochet. The brush that I'm using today is a smooth synthetic brush. You can see how easily it goes down. You can dampen your chalk mineral paint to have it be a little bit thinner. I most likely will dampen my brush more on the second coat because the first coat goes down pretty good. Like I'm just covering all of my work, right? I'm making sure that all of that gray boss is covered, and then the second coat will definitely go down a little bit thinner, allowing me to thin out the paint. If you weren't looking for any brush strokes, because chalk mineral paint does have a little bit of brush strokes, you're gonna find that you might want to sand in between coats of paint. If you have a small gray sanding pad, you can easily get in here, sand lightly in between coats, and make sure that you're not going to have any brush strokes. But to be honest, brush strokes don't bother me. Again, it's first coat, you're not really going to see much other than the color that I'm laying down. This is a cute little box. I kind of geek out over like little treasure box. That's what I found yesterday at the Goodwill, was that I found a couple wood boxes that were in the shape of books. You can open and close them. They'll be great for using up all those scraps of transfers that we talked about. I'm going to bring you in closer so you can see the wood you bend that we did yesterday. I will use a little bit more water around my wood you bend, because this is a 3D piece of molding, and it's hard to push the paint into the holes, but if you spray it and thin it a little bit, you're going to get it right in those holes a little bit easier, just to make sure that you've got that really pretty color in all of the spots. And I am painting over the hinges, FYI, don't judge me, because if you take the time to take this apart, I guarantee it's not going to go back on the same way that you took it off. I mean, I will gently go around them, but I'll use gilding wax at the end to come up and cover them in a nice, beautiful gold. Most likely the new antique gold gilding wax. That one's kind of been my new fave. So just coming in close to the edge of the hinges, if I get any paint on them, it's okay, no biggie, because I'm going to do that with gilding wax. I never ever have good luck when I take doors off of cabinets or dressers or whatever they're attached to. I have terrible luck ever getting the cabinets to line up, even if I mark the hinges, even if I think like I've put it back on the exact same way that it was supposed to be. It's a serious issue for me. I can never do it. So it's just easier for me and safer to leave it on, and then I don't have to worry about making sure they fit. You can see me going right over top of that molding that we added. We did that last week together here on my own Facebook page to repair that missing corner, because there was a missing edge to one of these corners. And just adding that wood you bend right over top, it's going to hide all of those little flaws. Plus it's going to dress it up some. Would you bend trim rolls, like jewelry for your piece? It's definitely a cute way to add a design element. I like to add all of the things. We know this. We know this. All right, let's come right up here to the top. I am sitting on the floor, so I'm a little lower than my cabinet. So I might have to actually stand up to paint this top section without seeing what I'm doing. Okay, let me at least get up here on my knees, then I can see the top. There's a little handle up here. Cute, cute, cute. I wonder when this cabinet is from. I mean, I know that it's probably fairly old. What do you think a cabinet like this dates from? The time period? I think it's like the 20s or 30s. Like that's where I feel like it could be. There's no maker's mark. I checked. The finish itself was very dark, very alligatored, which means that it's been around for a while and in a lot of hot heat. It could have lived in somebody's attic or in a house with no air conditioning, most likely. But I want to say like possibly like 20s or 30s, which means that it's coming up on 100 years old. Crazy. So I'm just getting my brush in and around these hinges. And this, my friends, will probably be as far as we can go today, because I need that first coat dry before I move on to the second. Even though I'm going to add that beautiful apricot on the interior panels, just a little pop of pink. This is definitely like a girly cabinet. I like to think of my furniture as being not gender specific, but like thinking about who it's going to go to. Will it go to a man? Will it go to a woman, a child? This piece feels like a lady's piece to me. So putting that pop of apricot on the inside, I think will be adorable. Adorable. So that is where we're at with that. What do you think? Super cute, right? Super cute. So now let's see. We've got this gorgeous pink that I'm going to put in the interior. Maybe I'll paint that white with the Ecru to begin with. But when I push up the handle, push up the lid all the way, it touches the handle, and then it's going to make a mark. And I don't want to make a mark on the paint that I've put down, because then I'll have to sand it back to flat. Like, I want to leave this part here. I think putting the transfer on the side versus the top is a good option. I just think it'll look better down there. Pretty, really nice. And then this Would You Bend trim rolls on the top with that nice little pop of pink on the inside. I think it's going to be a cutie patootie. What do we think? Adorable, right?